Talk about a slippery slope. I had a guest on last week that said, working hard makes you money, right? That feels good. And money, well, that ultimately then buys you freedom. But what if we no longer really had money, like in a cashless society, right? Was the world only would we go around with plastics and credit cards, right? We've talked about this on this show before, but I thought it'd be a good idea to give everyone an update about where we're at when it comes to a cashless society and our migration to central bank digital currencies. You've heard us refer to them as CBDCs. Every person that cares about economic freedom should be wary of central bank digital currencies as perhaps the biggest threat to human liberty since the attempted introduction of vaccine passports. Now, the World Economic Forum, they recently boasted in a new white paper that 98% of all central banks are now pursuing CBDC programs. Now, a cashless society would be the end game for economic anonymity and freedom of trade, too. Unless alternative physical currencies are widely adopted in protest, CBDCs would make all transactions traceable and easily interrupted by governments and or banks. Now, imagine a world where your ability to spend money can be limited to certain retailers, certain services, certain products, and certain regions based on your politics, your social credit score, and your background. That control comes with CBDCs, and it's an immense power, and it allows them for complete micromanagement of the population. The fact that 98% of the central banks are already adopting this technology should be one of the biggest news stories of this decade, yet it goes almost completely ignored. Now, my next guest, well, she's been sounding the alarm on this show probably since she first was on it. Please welcome into our show our very own Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, thanks for coming on. I saw this over the weekend and I said, oh, my word, this has absolutely got your name written all over it. Hey, how do you tip your hairstylist? How do you tip the paper boy? I mean, where do you begin? And I also know that they're going to use these CBDCs to help regulate the economy, right? They're going to put an end date on your money. You're going to have to spend it by a certain time, or right? It's going to be a coupon, not even cash. What say you? What's your view?
There's 3 points I want to make, Scott, and this is such an important topic, so I want to make sure that I get to these 3 points. The first thing is you're absolutely right. When you have a central bank digital currency, they can put timestamps on it. And when you have an economy that's 70% generated by consumer spending on services and products, then putting timestamps on things can really help the Federal Reserve Chairman make sure that he hits his GDP for that quarter if their money expires, right? But I want to talk about the nefarious intention on 2 fronts. First of all, we've talked before on your show about a bail-in. And what I'm starting to hear now in these economic sources and circles that actually really form policy is that they're looking at completing a bail-in with the CBDC. So let me explain. Let's say that you have $100,000 or $250,000 in a bank account that's FDIC insured, right? If you implement a CBDC, you can say, okay, that's what's in your account, but that's not what's in your wallet. What happens is you're going to have a wallet that has a digital ID that you're going to be able to use and spend your retail CBD on, and you can't transfer but so much into that wallet on a controlled basis. So the way they're going to bail in potentially leveraging these CBDCs is basically, yeah, you have this money in your account, but that's not what's actually in your wallet usable to be spent. And of course, there's all kinds of rules and parameters about how you get actual money into your wallet that's usable. So that's the first way that they're looking at controlling bank spending of accounts through what we call a bail-in, leveraging CBDCs. The second way is that we're looking at is a bifurcation of the retail CBDC, which is what you and I would use, like, say, for example, a digital dollar, and what the central bank itself is using on a wholesale side to do inter-payment and inter-country processing of actual payments. And that is moving us to something that is a lot more nefarious, and that is a one world global asset ledger. In other words, every house, every car, every boat, every piece of dollar, every cash, every piece of land, every possible asset, including intellectual property, will be reduced to a tokenized value that will be held on a unified global ledger that will allow the whole world to know what the net worth of the world is at any one time. And if there's ever a trade imbalance between one country or another, you simply have these tokens at the wholesale level that transfer between countries and what have you. I mean, Basically, what they're trying to do, Scott, through the financial system is tokenize everything, which will eventually bring in a one world currency and a one world government, because everything will be interconnected on a tokenized level. And so it's the tokenization of assets that we're really talking about here, right along now with these central bank digital currency, retail and wholesale, with the bank bail-in that will not allow you to spend the money that you have, leveraging your digital wallet and your digital ID. And if you don't comply with all the rules, you can't do any of this. And so that's why I thank God for gold.
That's right. And that's why there's an uptick in people buying it from Costco, number one. Number two is what I said in the monologue. Everybody out there needs to refute this idea of a cashless society. Cash is freedom, period. Period. Yes. And I think that not a lot of people think about that way, because we're so too easy to go, okay, they don't take cash at Starbucks anymore. They don't take cash at this place anymore. Well, no, you have to stop that, because that is the slippery slope that we're on. And if you don't have cash, you do lose all of your anonymity, right? You got about 30 seconds. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there is no anonymity. There is no privacy. Money is supposed to be fungible and not trackable. And therefore, I don't consider a central bank digital currency money at all. But it will replace the mechanism of money. And we have to understand that that is an absolute loss of freedom. And all you have to do is look what China does with their social credit model and what you can and cannot buy. And to think that that will not come here. Like if you're on government health insurance and you're smoking and we see that you're buying cigarettes every day, hey, you know what? Maybe you have your co-premium goes up on your health insurance, because it's not fair to the rest of the taxpayers that you continue to smoke and then ask us for cancer treatments. That's the kind of control that is available when you're having a centralized digital currency.
Or they just ban you from insurance altogether until you stop. I mean, that's the control they want. You're right. Awesome. I knew this was perfectly suited for you.